right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, joined once again by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D. Daryl Ortiz, after his week off. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Appreciate you holding down the fort. Crazy times, but yeah, you held it down, man. Did your thing, and now it's time for us to knock
I'm
out.
glad to have you back. I think everyone was tired of me. I was getting comments like I have two glass eyes, apparently. I don't know what that means, but apparently look like I have two glass eyes. So
Nice.
I'll work on just trying to look
Spoiler
straight
alert:
at you.
you're a robot.
Spoiler
No, I'm
alert.
just kidding.
Yeah, well, I was like, two glass eyes. How do they move? I was like, that'd be quite a trick. But anyways, so speaking of oddness, we have Raw and SmackDown this week. We're only 2 weeks away from Survivor Series, which is pretty wild.
It is.
War Games is in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from yesterday, actually, and all this stuff feels like Big D is just a lead up to getting us ready for War Games. So
Yeah, we left the Crown Jewel setup shenanigans for War Game setup shenanigans because they had to fill. Now they're kind of in a frenzy to kind of not in a frenzy, but they're just kind of more hurried up to kind of build those storylines for War Games because they're obviously occupied with Crown Jewel. So yeah, so that's pretty much was the theme of this week. It was interesting to see, but one thing I did want to note is a little history lesson. Survivor Series War Games was actually our first premiere episode of the show. So we are nearing that.
To it.
We're nearing that, my friend. We are nearing that. Like that is cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
1 year anniversary. I was like,
Woo!
that was our first show. First show was Survivor Series recap. So nearing the 1 year mark. We just hit the 50 episode mark, which that's why we'll get to like 52 or I think 53 once we hit the PLEs because there was like an extra one in there here and there. But yeah, it's how time flies, how a year can go by.
It flew. I was like, wow. But you know what didn't fly by was Raw. So Raw felt long, but we'll go through that here in a sec. So first came out to Gunther coming out to do his typical pandering to the crowd, talking trash, all that good stuff. But of course, he was interrupted by Damian Priest, who in a nutshell was just saying, we used to be scared of you, but you got beat at Crown Jewel and now we see the fear in your eyes, which pretty much, of course, drew out Ludwig Kaiser to kind of back him up. There were some words exchanged. Damian Priest beat down on Ludwig Kaiser while Gunther walked away. There was a little tension there when Gunther kind of stopped the mic once from Ludwig Kaiser just to kind of stop him and kind of, again, just building that tension within them two, which is odd. I'm not sure why they would do that to Gunther, but yeah, so it looks like there's a little tension being built between Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther. But yeah, they set up a match for Damian Priest and Ludwig Kaiser for later in the evening. But that was pretty much the rundown. Just more of Damian Priest saying, we used to be scared of you, but we're not anymore. So
we're not
I don't
scared.
know.
Well, and I didn't like this because they made Gunther act scared too. And I was like, is this like a red herring? Are they trying to like fake us out because he was like scared and then he kind of tried to jump Damian Priest and he's turned around and he was like, oh, and it was like, wait a second. So you're showing him as like a chump. So I'm hoping that's just a setup. And I'm hoping like the conflict between him and Kaiser is like, oh, this is part of the mind games. And they're just setting him up. And it's like, I was never afraid of you. We were never on a different page. Mm-hmm. I hope.
Yeah.
But if it's not, I'm going to be like, please don't do this. Please don't start with Cody Rhodes beating him. And then now it's
like a downward.
Yeah. I hope that's not happening here.
I hope not too. It was funny because when this happened, I guess we're in a society now that we think in like memes. And I think of like Home Alone when Kevin McAllister comes out to the neighbor, I'm not afraid anymore. That's pretty much what I got. So yeah,
like that was in time for Christmas. We got a Home Alone reference.
And I'm a Christmas guy. Spoiler alert. But yeah, after that we had Damage Control versus Pure Fusion Collective. I'm forever gonna hate that name. But we had Dakota Kai returning backstage to be our translator and return with the team after her injury suffered at the hands of Pure Fusion Collective. So it was a nice little callback there, a little storytelling callback, but they were always feuding, so there's not really a callback. But yeah, they had their match. End of the day, you had Shayna Baszler looking strong again. I actually did want to point that out. Shayna Baszler was hitting like her submission after submission after submission, which is what I like to see. She is like a powerhouse, so to speak, within the women's division, and I feel like they pull that away from her sometimes to kind of. I don't know if they feel like she needs more character or more like pizzazz or something. She really doesn't. I mean, it's very simple with Shayna Baszler. Like she comes in, she beats their ass, and she leaves. Like
Yeah.
that's it. She had so much potential in NXT when she was just like that dominant force that was taking everybody out. And I guess when they called her up to the main roster, I guess they're trying to like humanize her or something and just be like, no, she can have emotions. It's like, no, like let her be that badass and just like tear people
Yeah.
up. I don't know why they don't do that, but we had little hints of that here, which I did enjoy to see. Um, of course, she hit Kairi Sane with a crazy clothesline outside the ring when the referee's back was turned, of course, which shouldn't matter because it's a 6-woman tag match, but
Yeah.
yeah, but again, Kairi Sane was trying to get some momentum going. She was hitting all kinds of kicks and whatnot, and then of course Shayna Baszler locks in the Kirifuda clutch on Io Sky, and then Dakota Kai hits a big kick right in the back of Shayna Baszler to get her out of it, but Io Sky hit over the moonsault. Match over. Nothing too fancy, but it was pretty fun match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was nice to
It
see
was
Shayna Baszler kind
good.
of have those sparks.
It was a fine match. Like it's interesting. Like Pure Fusion Collective, I've said it before, they're a terrible gimmick, but they also can't decide on ring gear. Like this time, they look
Yeah,
like a dominatrix biker gang, and they were doing the finger guns the whole time, and I'm like, okay, I is that where we're landing here? It's like biker game dominatrix finger guns. Cool. Let's see how long this one lasts because they keep kind of swapping out the gear. They lose a lot because they lost here as well. Like
yeah,
for such a dangerous faction, these women can't be messed with. They're all powerhouses. They sure do lose a lot, which
yeah.
is fine though because they lost to Io Sky, who I love, love, love. So
Mm-hmm.
this worked out well.
Well, Io Sky is also
The
like
whole thing was fine.
a contender, right? She's
Yeah,
number one
she's
contender.
the number one contender
Yeah,
for
she's
the
the number one
women's
contender,
world
so it makes sense
championship.
that she would be the one to get the victory. But I think they
Yeah,
do the guns because they say it's like take your shot or whatever. But I'm like, no, but
yeah.
if
It
you're
just looks
doing the guns,
like
you're taking the shot. You're not giving the shot. Like it's I don't know.
yeah, six guns is sexy.
It's
So it's like that's the
like
whole match.
a generic attempt at a bullet club, I guess. Female bullet club.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
you go.
I get it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a fan of the faction. I just it's
I
disappointing
think
because
they're all
there's
individually good. They're
they
all individually
are,
good. Just
and I'm not knocking any of them. Like
together.
they're all good.
Yeah.
Like they're all good. It's just
Well,
this.
it's
Just let them be themselves. Like uh, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the name. I don't like it. I don't know. We'll see
yeah.
what happens.
That's what I'm like. It's like ice cream and horseradish. Individually, they're good. You don't want them together. Uh, so,
They go together
I'm
like
just
lamb
saying.
and tuna fish.
Yeah.
After that, we had Pete Dunne and Kofi because Kofi was avenging his buddy R-Truth and saying that he was gonna. I guess there was a talk beforehand where he was apologizing to R-Truth, and of course Xavier was back there like, "What are you talking about? Why are you apologizing?" But yeah, he's saying apologizing for not getting his back when he was getting jumped or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, R-Truth still calling Pete Dunne Butch, which is hilarious still because I love me some R-Truth anytime. But again,
Yep.
during the match, you had little hints of heel Xavier Woods. He did take a cheap shot, take out Pete Dunne behind the referee's back. And instead of capitalizing on it like he normally would, Kofi took offense to it. They argued, and he ended up allowing time for Pete Dunne to come in and get the bitter end. This match was over before it started. It wasn't anything crazy. Um,
Yeah.
really more just to further the storyline between the New Day, I guess, and their dissension. Pete Dunne looking strong, sort of, because he got hit back behind the back, but again overcame. It's more just to further the storyline. Is really all this was. What did you think?
Yeah. Like for me, it was filler in the sense that Pete Dunne doesn't really have a rivalry with Kofi. It's like he
Yeah,
was just the person that was there.
yeah,
And yeah, to your point, it's just a continuation of like we know that they're going to break up the New Day. We know Xavier Woods is basically a heel already. It's not even like we're waiting for the heel turn. Like the heel turn's already happened. He's already
yeah,
doing the heel stuff.
yeah,
We're just waiting for the inevitable split. And this was just more of they had the little blow up at the end too, where they kind of pushed and shoved each other back and forth. Kofi and Xavier did.
yeah.
So it's just the progression of that storyline. Hopefully,
Mhm.
it comes to a head sooner than later.
Yeah, we'll have to see when that happens. But backstage, we did have the story of the night, I guess, or not whole story of the night, but one of the stories during the night was the bloodline, the OG bloodline out there trying to recruit a fifth member for War Games. You had Jimmy talking to excuse me, Braun Breaker. You had Sami Zayn trying to talk to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins right away was like, "I'll never team with Roman Reigns again," which pretty much means he's going to team with Roman Reigns again. And
totally. Especially after SmackDown.
Yeah,
totally
spoiler. But yeah, so then you had them, approaching Braun Breaker, which was interesting because Braun Breaker was the guy who took Jay's title, and Jimmy's asking Braun for help, which was kind of interesting, I guess, just to show the desperation. Show the desperation of them trying to get a member to help them out. And that was pretty much the people that they approached. After that, you had Bronson Reed outside, go to the ring, call out Seth Rollins, and he showed up. Huge brawl again, pull apart brawl. I'm actually really liking this. I like this, teases of like where they can't stand each other, they hate each other. Whenever they get in the ring together, it takes like 20 people to pull them apart, and it's effective. It's good because what this is doing, one, it's building their storyline, but two, it's building Bronson Reed as a main event contender, which I think was the goal, right? And it's working. He looks strong. He looks great. He's coming across as that heel monster.
He cut a promo here too. Also, they rarely let him cut promos, and he cut a really good promo.
Yeah, they're letting him use his vocal skills and like talk.
Yeah, and he's really, really solid on the mic. I saw him on the Chris Van Velt interview too.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, he's really charismatic, and he's like, when I saw that, I was like, man, they should really let him do more on the mic. And it was funny when we saw this week. I was like, oh, he's actually out here cutting a promo that sounded really good, and it didn't sound scripted and fake and cheesy. Like it sounded genuine. I was like, man, they've got to let him do more talking. They've got to do more with him. So it's cool to see him do stuff other than just be a monster heel.
Exactly. Exactly. I completely agree. It's helping him look, like I said, like a monster heel, but it's also showing that he can hold his own in the ring and on the mic. I mean, that's beautiful, and I love it. So more of this. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I know people probably just think, oh, it's just a bunch of pull apart brawls. Yeah, but the story that's being told right now, is these guys cannot stand each other because it is building to something bigger later on, and we'll talk about that when we talk about SmackDown, right? But then after that, it looked like after once they got separated, new bloodline to try to approach Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins said, "I'll for sure never work with a fake Roman Reigns or wannabe Roman Reigns." Again, laying the seeds. We already know what's going to happen there. After that, we had the Damian Priest Ludwig Kaiser match, which was a good match. It was more to highlight Damian Priest. This was more almost like a borderline squash match. You had Ludwig Kaiser get some offense in, but he was able to beat him with the South of Heaven very easily. No sweat off his brow. I think this was just to prove a point in the Gunther feud. So that was that. What did you think?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Like I think they started off as a little bit more competitive for what you saw, for what happened during the commercial break. Because you got a commercial break immediately. It was like Kaiser's, got the upper hand here, and so we missed a good section of it. But it was fine. Like it really was just you always see that in the lead up to a big match. It's you're going to fight all my henchmen before you fight me.
Yeah.
At insert name of PLE here. So this one was a little by the numbers for me.
Yeah, it was your typical run of the mill. Like you're right, climbing the ladder to get to the boss. Apparently I missed a good Raw where Miz was abducted. Apparently, and so Miz shows it was released.
The abduction. The abduction was just a video. Like I recapped this last week. It was just a video of him like strapped to a chair. He's like, "Oh no!" And they basically said they were going to murder the Miz. So,
he got out.
I was fully expecting the Miz to be murdered, but apparently all he had to do was say he was sorry, and they let him out. So that was a bit of a letdown. Like I was expecting like something terrible to happen, and it's just like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe when they move to Netflix, they'll actually murder people. We'll see. But but Miz was free. He ran into, of course, Final Testament. Of course, they're like, "Where did you get the location? Where are they? Where did you find them? Tell us where they're at. Tell us where to find them." And he's like, "I don't know. So anyways, they beat him up. They supposedly beat him up, walk him down to the ring, and of course using him as bait, which actually was a nice little swerve twist kind of thing, right? Because typically
Yeah.
it's the Wyatt Six that's like playing chess and like being moves ahead. And in this instance, you had the Final Testament laying the trap because when they put Miz in the middle of the ring and they were about to pretty much destroy him. The lights go out. Wyatt Six comes out as expected, but then Miz attacks Eric Rowan with the chair, and then the Final Testament kind of get a one up here on the
Yeah.
Wyatt Six. But the key part, of course, and I think this is going to be a common fact, a common denominator here with Uncle Howdy is laughing hysterically while he's getting beat down because this doesn't phase him, and you're falling
Yeah.
into his what he wants you to do. He's exposing you, and he's speaking correctly about you, and that kind of freaked out a little bit Karrion Kross as he kind of looked like disheveled, or he was like, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" Because he didn't know what to expect because Uncle Howdy was just laughing and laughing. They did get the upper hand, however, it looks like Wyatt Six is still ahead on them. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. This is obviously going to be some kind of Survivor Series match between the Wyatt Six and Final Testament. I'm just going to put this out there. I would love for this to be kind of like a, how can I say it? I don't want to say like a Firefly Funhouse match, but I feel like something backstage where they can do outlandish stuff would be great
Yeah.
because one, the Wyatt Six thrive on that, but two, it would help the Final Testament. I feel, and I feel
Yeah.
they need help being pushed a little bit more. I love Karrion Kross, and I think he should be pushed to the moon because I think he's awesome. I think he's great. He's really good, and I think he's just underutilized. So I think this will be his opportunity to kind of shine a little bit more than he has been, and also for, of course, the whole team. Make them look stronger, and I think that'll help. But I mean, I would like to see some kind of like no DQ, no holds bar kind of backstage brawl kind of thing. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
they need to do something. They need to do something fun and something unique here.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that they White Six felt like they got wiped out a little too easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seemed a little bit too simple. Like once Miz got the chair shot in, it was like there's one extra person, and that was enough to completely devastate the White Six. Like yes, Uncle Howdy was laughing, but everybody else looked like they were comatose. And
Yeah.
so I was almost like, man, like we're making it that easy to stop the Wyatt Six and wipe them out. I did like the fact that they had the whole Karrion Kross is kind of like, hey, what's going on? You see the doubt in his
Mm-hmm.
face when the
Yeah.
laughing things happening as he's walking out. So I think there's the potential there. I just don't want them. I feel like they made Wyatt Six look a little too weak here.
Yeah. I
Initially,
get you.
they got dispatched pretty fast. But I think they can do some real fun stuff with both of these two. It gives them both something to do, and I think they're good factions to feud with each other. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they need some big blow up match.
Yeah. I would love to see that. And hopefully it's at Survivor Series. We'll see. I don't know how
Yeah.
stacked the card's going to be yet, but we'll see. After that, we had our main event, which actually I did mention this, and I'm very happy to say it. I think this was great to see that we're starting to see more and more. I know this isn't the first time it's happened before other times, but I'm loving that we're seeing a women's title match as the main event. And I think that's awesome. I think it's long overdue because a lot of these girls can go a lot better than some of the guys. I'm being honest,
Yeah.
like, and I it's really cool to see how far women's wrestling has evolved from like the divas era where they were just managers and just eye candy for the crowd to now where they're like in the main events and they're actually contending and competing. They have storylines. They have great storylines. They have great characters. They have a lot going for them. They have now the women's United States Championship match, which I'm sure is going to lead to also the women's Intercontinental title match. I'm pretty sure it's going to come up
Yeah,
as well.
they've got to like
Yeah,
just for the
and
symmetry of it, they got to do it.
yeah, and I'm all for it. I feel like WWE has probably one of the most stacked women's divisions in all of wrestling, and I'm glad to see them all showcased here, right? So here you had, of course, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I gotta say it slowly because I'll fumble on my rollings here. But you did have some moments here where Jade and Bianca like almost hit each other, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, no, we're good." But again, just still hinting that there's that little disconnect somewhere, and it's gonna blow up more. You had a nice showdown between Jade Cargill and Raquel. That was good to see. They were going to town. Then, of course, here comes Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton to kind of interrupt. Naomi comes out to offset, and then Bianca Belair, through all the commotion going on between all the brawling, Bianca Belair does hit the KOD on Liv Morgan, which I don't feel was the right move to retain the titles. After that, of course, Io Sky came out to help Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill and Naomi. So there's going to be your War Games match right there. War Games team, I mean, right there. But we'll see for the women's division. I think that's probably who it's going to be. It's going to be Io Sky, Dakota Kai. No, Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi. That's 4 against Liv Morgan, Raquel, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton. I think that's going to be the Survivor Series match, which is odd. Odd to see because you just had Nia Jax and Liv Morgan face each other and show they don't like each other, so now they got to get along. But then on the other side, you have the seeds of dissension between Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then the storyline was also furthered on SmackDown, which we'll talk about too, because people forget about Bayley. But
it was all the same people in the main event for Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, it was.
If you really think about it. Because Jade and Bianca were there backstage, but they were there. Liv Morgan and Raquel were backstage, but they were there. You had Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax. You had Naomi in the main event. Naomi and Nia Jax is the main event. So it was the same group of players. And that's where I feel like, to your point, I was like, why are they mishmashing all of them together? I was like, oh yeah, they're throwing together a women's war game match.
Yeah,
like that's what
you got to have a women's war game match
at the last minute. Feeling like it kind of sucks because they've been building the bloodline. It was obvious they were doing a bloodline versus bloodline.
Yeah, we called this since way back.
Yeah, they've been building that for months, and it was like there was so much, I think, storyline invested in that one, and they're like, oh yeah, we got to do a women's one too. Just throw this group together, and do the women's war game. So it does feel a little bit like an afterthought.
Yeah, but I mean, it should be fun regardless. But overall, Raw was all right. I give it like a C-. I wasn't too.
Yeah,
I was kind of.
It was a C show for me. Like it felt kind of flat. Like there was nothing that really got me excited. For me, probably the most exciting moment was Io Sky kind of running wild. A little bit like that for me is what anything with Io Sky is great. Just wasn't anything groundbreaking. I mean, it's the continuation of the storylines we've seen for a little while. And speaking of which, SmackDown was a lot like that too.
Copy paste.
We essentially got copy paste. We got Cody Rhodes, which I'm kind of wondering here, like what are they really going to do with Cody Rhodes and The Rock, and like what's happening? Because The Rock come out and do this whole tease where he just kind of pointed at everybody and then nothing's happened. But Cody Rhodes came out and basically called out Kevin Owens. So we're doing this again because Kevin Owens pile drove Randy Orton, and who's out indefinitely now. So they've already kind of written him off and he's out indefinitely, saying that he crossed the line. Nick Aldis came out and then it's like, I'm going to figure this out. Until I figure this out, KO can't be here. And they went back and forth. And then, basically kind of Cody appealed to the wrestler and Nick Aldis the whole time. And that was basically it. He was just like, balls in your court, dude, and then walked out. So it was fine for what it was. I just feel like it's not a great use of Cody's time we've already seen him and Kevin Owens. I don't really want to see him and Kevin Owens again at this point. So this just kind of felt like it was a little lacking for me, but I get it. They're writing this storyline. They had that whole segment with him and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and the injury and the pile driver and all that. But what did you think here?
Yeah, I mean, Cody Rhodes hardly ever delivers a bad promo. So this was a great promo, obviously. It was delivered well, very impactful, obviously makes a lot of sense. I don't know that I'm a fan of, the whole like, oh, he used the band to move. And then you had later on, I guess you had Kevin Owens kind of explain, but it was, again, I feel like this is just filler. I feel like they don't know what to do right now because you got War Games. Clearly, Cody's not going to be involved in War Games, which is a shame because his dad invented the freaking concept. His dad invented War Games.
I have expected him to be the 5th member for the Bloodline.
I agree.
Again,
I agree.
That's what I thought he was going to. But not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made sense, but I get it. And I don't know. But yeah, it would have made a little more sense than what they're going towards. But they got to give him something to do. And, or who knows, maybe they asked him if he wanted to do a War Games. Maybe it was too much. He didn't want to do that. Maybe it was too sentimental for him. But yeah, I wish it would have had him involved in War Games in some form or fashion because, like I said, this is his dad's conception, his dad's baby, right? But Yeah, I get it. It's just gonna be it's pretty much just gonna lead to like a Street Fighter non-sanctioned match, I'm sure, at War Games. But I mean, it
Yeah,
was fine.
just
I mean,
nothing I'm really looking forward to. Is kind of how I
yeah,
feel. I'm like, yeah, I could do without it.
it's kind of, you know what's
But then,
funny? It's funny
oh,
because it's eerily similar to the approach Randy Orton took with Triple H
yeah,
to get Kevin
yeah,
Owens. It's the same thing. He appealed
yeah.
to the wrestler in Triple H. So I mean, copy paste.
Coffee face. Hey, if it ain't broke, keep doing it
Oh,
forever until
reliable.
somebody realizes it. All reliable, old faithful here. And then we got the first after this, the first match of the night was Bayley versus Candice LeRae versus BFAB of all people, as
Mm-hmm.
part of the Women's U.S. Championship Tournament Round One. First thing I thought was, how does BFAB qualify to get into a tournament qualifier? Because they haven't had her active wrestling or doing anything. So and then I'm not a huge fan of them just kind of grouping everyone. It's like triple threat, triple threat, triple threat. It's like, can we just do some singles matches? I know you've got a large roster, but let's let it breathe a little bit. But we got a triple threat here. And even though we never see BFAB compete, she looked great. Like
Mm-hmm.
they really booked her strong in this one.
She did really well.
Early goings and late in the match, and she was really good throughout. But it was kind of like, hey, she's been training with the Street Profits this whole time, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, but you came like we know she could wrestle, and we know she's been a wrestler, and she's been in this kind of manager role for a while now. So it's just kind of like trying to introduce to the audience that, oh, hey, by the way, BFAB knows how to wrestle. But it felt a little forced. And I wish they had spent a little bit more time maybe setting it up and having her compete in some matches versus it's like all of a sudden she's competing on SmackDown and giving Bayley and Candice LeRae a run for their money. But it was a good match. There was
Yeah.
that cool spot where there was like an attempted power bomb suplex,
Oh
and
yeah.
then Candice countered that into like a powerbomb crossbody, and she nearly got Bayley. So that was cool. There were some cool
Yeah.
spots here. It was really fun, but it did end with a surprise roll up from Bayley on BFAB, which I'm like, do we have to do the surprise roll up? I guess we do. I think contractually WWE's required to do like a surprise roll up like once per
Yeah.
SmackDown. So this was the one we got. Bayley kind of predictably advanced. Like I didn't
Yeah.
expect Candice LeRae or BFAB to advance on this one in the
No.
women's U.S. Championship tournament, but it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
I was about to say like that. The reason they had BFAB debut, well, not even her debut because she did wrestle on NXT,
Yeah,
but
sure, NXT,
the reason
yeah.
the reason they had her in it is because I think it's good for her to show that she could wrestle. I think people forget that she's actually a wrestler. I think they think she's just a manager. So she did really well. I'm happy with her performance. She did really good. But obviously, we knew Bayley was going to win. They just needed a couple
Yeah.
bodies to feed and to kind of make it look competitive. So Bayley was going to win. I have a feeling. My prediction right now. I was trying to look for the brackets because I couldn't remember the bracket. But if I'm not mistaken, ironically, you have Jade Cargill on one side and you have Bianca Belair on the other side.
Belair on the other.
So something tells me they're going to end up facing each other for that title, and that's going to cause the split. So
yeah,
we'll
and
see.
that makes sense because they've been kind of teasing, like
They've been teasing it
it's
for a
going
long
to get
time.
to that point with them. So
Yeah.
I would be down with that.
Although, me personally, I would love to see Bayley be the first Women's United States champion just because of all the work she's put in for WWE, all the way from NXT. She's climbed all the way through. She's carried the brand for a while. And I think she would have been more deserving. But who knows? Maybe they
She
might give it
would,
to
but
Bayley.
I think Bianca, if she wins, Bianca's a former women's champion, and
Yeah.
she has not had a singles title in a while.
Yeah.
So I think she'd be a good fit too. It's like, don't put it on Jade. Let Bianca win it. Let Jade be.
They might put it on Jade, though.
They
They
totally
might.
might, and that was kind of like it'd be a bummer for her to be the inaugural. I love Jade and everything, but I feel like there's, to your point, Bayley or Naomi or Bianca Belair, any of those folks would probably be better deserved to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how they decide to book this one.
Time will tell. But I did enjoy the match. It was fun. I did like that spot where Candice LeRae, again, showing that she's very savvy. She's a savvy veteran. She just like rotated her body weight, shifted just enough at the right moment to turn into a crossbody. That was really cool. And yeah, I mean, it was a good match. It was fun.
Yeah, it was good. And then my match of the night was after this one, which is LA Knight with the Men's U.S. Championship Open Challenge, because he's a fighting champ. He's not like Logan Paul. And so he came out and cut a promo. He mentioned he turned down Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn's not very good at recruiting for the five. He's always like, I know a guy. I'll be right back. And they're like, no, Sammy. So Sammy gets shut down a lot. So he tried to recruit LA Knight, and that didn't work out. And then Legado del Fantasma came down. So we kind of, oh, we're getting Santos Escobar. And
Mm-hmm.
he cut a promo on Knight. Took a pretty long time to try to challenge Knight, who instead offered the opportunity to Berto, because Berto was staring a hole through him. And so, and then so he basically granted the opportunity to Berto, who blindsided him when he wasn't looking. And then we were going to get the match after the break, but we actually got it during the break, because when they came back from break, the match was already in progress. So that was
Because
the
why
first
the
bummer
hell
on
not?
this one. Why would you wait for a championship match to wait till the commercial's done to start it? Let's just get into the action, because we know he's not going to lose. That's kind of where,
Yeah.
whenever that happens, it's like, okay, obviously, there's not going to be a surprise title change, so we can get to see some of the action. And then we just heard that Berto was taking it to LA Knight all during that beginning of the match that we didn't see. And then we got to see LA Knight's comeback and take control of the match. It was really, really good. Berto, of course, is very talented.
Yeah, he
LA
is.
Knight is, I think, is very, very talented as well. They were both great here. They had good chemistry. Eventually, LA Knight did kind of hit that elbow drop, followed by the BFT, and ended up retaining. So it was really good, really exciting. And moment of the night was we had the surprise return of Shinsuke Nakamura, who
Yeah.
took out LA Knights. I love me that.
Yeah.
This is where I was kind of worried about, man, they keep doing this, like this merry-go-round with Santos Escobar and Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, and they keep
Mm-hmm.
going back and forth with these three. Can we get some new blood in here? Well, boy, howdy, they got some new blood in here, because Shinsuke Nakamura is obviously going to be LA Knight's foil going forward. They should have a great match together. So I'm
Oh
super
yeah,
stoked,
they
because I
will.
love Shinsuke. And so this is match of the night, moment of the night for me. I really enjoyed this very much. But what did you think?
I agree. I loved every bit of it. LA Knight always delivers great promos, and I love how he's just like talking to Santos the whole time, and then he like looks over to Berto and he's like, "This guy's been like," and I like that. So I like the
Yeah.
setup to it. It was a nice little swerve because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, bro, how many title shots are you gonna get? And so they, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some luchadores. I love me some lucha libre, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like, come on. But yeah, so it was good to see Berto get a shot. And I think that was good to see Shinsuke's surprise return. I didn't recognize him at first. Kind of
Yeah.
threw me
It
off.
took me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, oh, that is Shinsuke. I love it. So I love this new character. It looks like he's going to be a little more darker, a little more meaner, a little more aggressive, which is what we wanted to see out of Shinsuke because he is the king of strong style. He is that aggressive fighter. So I'm excited for that. So yes, I was match of the night as well for me and moment.
Yeah. And then after this, we got the setup for War Games. So you get old bloodline walking. Yeah, Jimmy J and Sammy backstage with Roman going, "Nobody wants to be with us." And then you had Solo's music hit, and so the new bloodline walks down to the ring, and then Solo starts his shtick about "Acknowledge me," and Roman's music immediately hit. You got old bloodline walked out. Everybody's standing there doing the face off, and then just a brawl breaks out. There's no promo cutting or anything like that. It just turns into a brawl, and everyone starts fighting. And it turned into a spot fest. So I enjoyed this just because it was like a big spot fest
Yeah.
for a little while there.
Yeah.
You had some fun moments where Reigns did kind of return the favor for Sammy, where he saved Sammy from a Samoan spike by hitting a spear on Solo. And then you've got the big moment from this one, which was Bronson Reed popped up and started blindsided Roman, attacked him. Was working with Jacob Fatu. You couldn't tell. It was like, oh, is he here to just attack everybody? Well, no, he wasn't. So apparently Bronson Reed is the fifth member of the new bloodline for War Games. And they basically just kind of wrecked everybody. Tsunamis all around. Roman had a little rally moment where he was against Reed and then got blindsided with a spike and then ate another tsunami. It was a fine segment. You had all the gloom and doom of, oh, well, if Bronson Reed is on their side, they've got no chance. What are they gonna do? And I'm like, oh, well, this just means it's Seth Rollins now, because Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed are having their final match to settle it all on Monday night. They booked it on Monday night. Adam Pearce made that where he was like, that's it. There's no more after this, right? And he's like, yeah, there's no more after this. I'm in, and Bronson Reed for good. Obviously, new bloodline is going to be there on Monday night.
Yeah.
They are obviously going to interfere and help. This
Yeah.
will obviously cause Seth Rollins to reluctantly join. And I'm like, did we really have to do like this kind of just I don't think we need to merge the Seth Rollins Bronson Reed storyline in with this and just make it all part of the War Games match. I wasn't super stoked about this, but what are your thoughts, Biggie?
I actually liked the move of Bronson Reed joining the new Bloodline for War Games. I don't know if he's joined. I don't think he's joined as a member. Obviously, I think he's joined as
I think just
as
for this
as a
one,
partner for the match. But I liked it for the reasons I said prior. Is that it elevates him into that main event spotlight. It brings him up there. You wonder how you think of main event on Raw and SmackDown. You think of course, of Roman Reigns. You think of Randy Orton. You think of Gunther, Damian Priest, all those high big names, Seth Rollins. So he's feuding Seth Rollins. What better way to elevate him even more is to pin him against Roman Reigns, and I think that's a great way to do it. He had his moment with Jey Uso where he was, going, back and forth with Jey for a little bit too because of Seth Rollins. This is obviously the way you get Seth Rollins in. Although I wasn't a fan of it because my heart was set on. I heard rumblings and rumors that Zilla Fatu was signing to WWE. Yeah. He even left his other promotion, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I was kind of hoping we would see him join with Jacob and partner up with Jacob and kind of be part of the new bloodline. Then you'd have The Rock join in with the OG bloodline because it just makes sense to me. But I could be wrong.
I thought The Rock was like The Rock's not going to be in that final spot. So that's where I really thought they were building to that. And I'm like, and Bronson Reed's great, but it was just kind of like, okay, I was expecting The Rock, and then I was expecting them. They're going to find and maybe Cody Rhodes. That's why I was like, is it going to be Rock and Cody Rhodes as the last two?
Yeah, and so to me, that's
unfinished business.
Yeah, that's where I'm torn, right? Because I do like it for Bronson Reed. It's a good move for him. It's a good look for him. He fits in that faction very well. He can make up for a lot of the power there because him and Jacob Fatu together is going to be insane. And I just I like it. I like it for them. You kept hearing, was it Jimmy tell Roman, just make the call, man, and it kind of made you think that it was going to be The Rock, right? And we'll talk about that later because I know you'll go over that when it goes off air. But I was kind of like, okay, then The Rock. I thought right now that beatdown was going to happen. You hear The Rock's music, and then he comes out, but no. So yeah, it's going to be Seth Rollins, obviously, especially now with Bronson Reed inserted into the fold. So I think that's going to be, of course, there's going to be shenanigans. You're going to have new bloodline interfere in the match, and then OG bloodline is going to come out to help Seth Rollins, and then that's where he's going to say, all right, I'll join. And that's when it's going to happen. So, yeah.
But after this, we got Kevin Owens' social media post just saying, it was an iPhone video saying, I'll be in Salt Lake City next week because they asked me to. And remember, you asked me to be there. So stay tuned for that. And then we had...
Which means he's going to murder Cody Rhodes.
He's going to murder Cody Rhodes. You guys asked me to be there. So if I kill Cody Rhodes...
You did this.
I think that is, something horrifying will happen in Salt Lake. Motor City Machine Guns versus Street Profits for the tag titles was next. Both these teams are great. This was really fun. I would say go back and watch it. It was a spot fest. This was in contention for my match of the night until kind of as the action went on, you had Tommaso Ciampa just run out and attack Montez forward, and it's a DQ and the match is over. And I was like, do we have to have interference and DQ finishes to ruin everything? Apparently at least one per show. So just like the surprise roll-up, we get one DQ interference one. So Tommaso came down and attacked Ford, and then Johnny Gargano ran down to kind of like intervene, kind of, sort of, and try to calm down Ciampa. And he shoved Gargano down and left, which they've been building to this forever. So it was kind of like, you're clearly going to break up DIY, but then Gargano just kind of pursued him out. And then Angelo Dawkins decked Alex Shelley in anger. Alex was like, hey, we didn't have anything to do with that. We're sorry. And then he punched him. So I was like, what, are you guys like making him act a little heelish too? Like, I don't really understand that. Like, everything about that piece felt a little clunky to me. It was a really great match up until that point. It felt just more like an excuse to let's blow up the whole Tommaso Ciampa thing and have him split. But he didn't really split from Johnny Gargano. Like he shoved him, and they had this whole back and forth. And then they both stormed off together. So that's obviously what's going to happen here. But what did you think?
Yeah, and it's funny because you could hear Tommaso Ciampa's from Milwaukee, so you heard the huge pop when he jumped onto the apron, but then they were confused. They're like, "Wait a minute," because he was helping doing heel stuff.
Like, we like that you're here, but why are you here? Yeah,
why are you interfering in the match? But yeah, so they I mean, Street Profits. I think they've been insinuating they're going to be heel. So that's been in the works. I think they've been kind of heelish for a while. But yeah, it was a great match. I was enjoying every bit of it. I mean, both of these teams together is amazing, but I guess now they're gonna have like a rematch. I'm assuming because Motor City Machine Guns are just like, hey, sorry, that wasn't our doing. We'll give you another shot. I'm thinking is what's gonna happen. Tommaso
Are
Ciampa
they gonna do
shoving Johnny
triple threat?
Gargano. The what?
Yeah, do triple. Are they gonna do a triple threat with DIY? Like
Um,
that's what I'm wondering too. Do you do Street Profits, DIY, and Motor City Machine Guns, and then that's the blow up where you have Gargano and Champa break up
I would be
after that
okay
match or
with
during
that.
that match?
I would be
Okay,
okay with that if it's a ladder match
yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be cool.
because you have the spot fest between all of them, and then at the end, you can really have like that blow up at the end where Tommaso Ciampa leaves. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
that'd
know.
be. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Time will tell. But I enjoyed the match up until the finish, but it's going to set up some kind of triple threat tag match. I'm sure. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we got our main event. So women's running the main events in both shows, and like we said, this is the same group of women as essentially for Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, copy
Main event was
paste.
officially Nia Jax versus Naomi for the WWE Women's Championship. You had Bailey, Naomi, and Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair all backstage. Like, hey, we're all going to watch your back, and so they were all kind of hanging out backstage. And then Nia started off kind of immediately manhandling Naomi a little bit. There was
Yeah,
only 15 minutes
ragdolling
left
her.
in the show. Yeah, she ragdolled her and she like beat her up. Naomi rallied quickly, and then we got the backstage shots of here's Bianca and Jade and Tiffany all watching on the monitors. Everyone's watching on the monitors. Tiff was clutching her briefcase for a bit, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Is she gonna try to cash in?" Like
I've given up
they
on
keep
that.
doing that tease with it, and then I was like, "No, she's not gonna try and cash in." And then we got a picture-in-picture commercial break. Nia started kind of taking control late again in this one. Things looked really bleak for Naomi. She did counter Nia with like a sunset flip that was pretty smooth,
Yeah,
which was cool. And then she hit the crossbody and the enziguri and the rear view, but it wasn't enough to stop Nia after all that offense. And then you got like a cut to the back where it was like Bianca and Jade have been like knocked out, and then Liv and Raquel are back there laughing. So I'm like, okay, so they technically helped Nia here because they stopped these two from coming out. So I guess that makes them friends for war games. I was like trying to connect the dots here and going, I guess that makes them friends enough for war games, but okay. And then and it was also like, hey, we're not getting any brand separation anymore, and I get it. Like now there's just too many crossovers. And then you had essentially Naomi countered also a slam from Nia from the second rope. It looked kind of like Nia landed on her head on that one, on top of her head. Like it looked pretty brutal when it happened. And then you had Tiffany Stratton run out. You had Bailey run out and take out Tiffany. And then you had Candice LeRae run out and attack Bailey. So there was way too much interference that was happening for me. And that was considering the fact that you had the backstage brawling between Liv and Raquel and Bianca and Jade. So lots of interference. Essentially, Nia hit the Annihilator eventually, and she ended up winning. And then they all raised their hands, and that was that. Again, not unpredictable. I mean, you knew Nia wasn't going to lose here, but as we had said before, all of this kind of calamity just felt like excuses to push all these women into position for a War Games match. They're like, we got to book it in 2 weeks. Let's just have them all in there brawling. They've all got feuds. They're all kind of on certain sides. This is our group. That's how it felt to me.
yeah. I mean, it's just a mad rush, right? To get everyone together. We knew
Yeah.
Naomi was not going to beat Nia Jax, and then you had the before it all happened, you had Bailey telling Naomi, I got your back," and Nia Jax and Jade Cargill kind of like, "Nah, we got her. Don't worry about it. Get
We
out of
got
here,
her
whatever."
back.
So that obviously laying
Yeah.
more seeds there, um, and it was. I think this was just build up, of course, and it's just. I honestly just to kind of go off kilter a little bit here. I don't think the Money in the Bank cash is going to happen until like last minute. I think she's going to hang on to it like Damian Priest did for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think
It'll be like WrestleMania next year. Next WrestleMania. It's like they're gonna drag it to the end. Like at this
yeah,
point, all hope is lost.
Yeah, it's gonna be forever, and I mean, I've accepted that, I guess. But at the same time, though, I think it's gonna be an interesting match. They're gonna do the war games, obviously, between them, and I think this is just more to set it all up because now you have Candice LeRae there as well, um, and Bailey involved somehow. So maybe that's the 5-person team then. Maybe they're gonna do 5-5 like they're doing for the men's, which I always thought was the
Yeah.
case. I never thought war games
Yeah,
was 4-4.
I thought it was 5-5, so that's
Yeah,
where
so
I
because
assumed
they were
it
making
was.
it seem like, oh, there is a change, and that's why they had to recruit a 5th member. And I'm like, no, this War Games has always been five
No,
on
it's
five
always been 5.
because
Yeah,
Survivor
it's always
Series
five
is
on
always
five.
5-on-5. But whatever,
Yeah.
that could be crazy. But yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah,
eh,
I mean it was what it was, but and then we got one final short segment to close the show. So after the women's match, it was like, oh, you get the shot of Roman Reigns in his dressing room, and he's like, wincing, and then he's like, oh, he's gonna make the call because you keep hearing him make the call, make the call, make the call. So he's gonna make the call, and he gets his phone. So apparently, he can't just hit the dial button; he's got to use the Siri call. And he goes, "Call the wise man." And if the place loses its mind, you can hear everyone cheering like, "Oh my god, he's calling Paul Heyman!" But then the number goes to doo doo doo. The number you have reached is no longer in service, and it's like, oh, his phone's been disconnected. He couldn't reach the wise man. And I'm thinking, well, wise man probably watches SmackDown, so probably knows you're trying to get a hold of him anyway. But the call's not in service. Roman Reigns hung his head in sadness. Whatever will he do? And the show ended. So that's how SmackDown wrapped up. Obviously, we're getting the wise man. Obviously, he'll answer the call at some point. Maybe next week, maybe the week before, maybe the go home show on SmackDown. I don't know. But what were your thoughts on this last little twist at the end?
my headphones just died. So sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Can you hear me? I don't think Big D can hear me, but it's all right. If he can, he can't. But we had a major twist at the end there at SmackDown. But I will say I'm going to give it. I'm going to give SmackDown probably a C show also because it was basically Raw copy pasted is what I'll say. It was okay. Everything is kind of the filler in the lead up to Survivor Series, but I thought it was fine. Did I get you back, Big D?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did what it was supposed to do, I guess, in building the storylines. Grade wise, I feel I'm hard on it because, hang on a sec, the beauty of live recording,
I know,
right?
beauty of
Yeah.
live recording is how this goes.
Sorry about that. But yeah, grade wise, I would say because
Yeah, we'll call it that.
and I was enjoying the tag team match until the DQ finish, but yeah. So I mean, it furthered the storyline. It did its job, I guess. Wasn't the most exciting episode, no, not by any means. But yeah, that's barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C's get degrees. I gave it a C also. So I think a C is appropriate. Excited to see how things go as we progress towards. We got 2 more weeks, and then we're at War Games. So I'm sure a lot of Fast and Furious action to get the final team solidified. We'll get the big reveal of Seth Rollins being the final person. Probably
Yeah.
not tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be the next Monday, or maybe like the lead up of who's it going to be, and it'll be a surprise. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they play this one.
Or they'll do like what was that one when Randy Orton was supposed to come out?
Yeah,
And Kevin was like, last year. He's like, Grant, is he going to show up? And it was, he wasn't even out there for the intro or anything. And then finally at the very end, when it was time for him to come out. So maybe they'll do that. Copy paste. That seems to be the theme.
Similar.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, it worked last year really well. If we just do it with Seth Rollins again,
we got a good pop. Let's do it again.
It's good synergy. Yeah, we can make this happen. Well, that's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support as always. And that's what we got for this week. So I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big D Daryl Ortiz. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and we'll see you soon.